The lights flickered across Space Station Phoenix. Another routine day was about to become anything but routine. Dr. Alex Rivera was checking his research samples when the air itself seemed to shimmer and crack open like broken glass. He looked up from his microscope, expecting maybe a power surge or equipment malfunction. What he didn't expect was a woman stepping through what looked like a tear in reality itself. But this wasn't just any woman. Her skin had a silver shine to it, like polished metal, and her eyes glowed with a soft blue light. Looked like it was made from starlight, and when she moved, the very air around her seemed to bend. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, and carried herself like someone who had never heard the word no in her entire life. Commander Zara stepped into the human research lab and immediately felt disappointed. The ceiling was too low, the lighting was weak, and everything smelled like cleaning chemicals and coffee. This was the mighty human civilization she had heard so much about. The same species that had somehow managed to spread across multiple star systems despite being ordinary. She had come here on official business. The Valerian Empire needed a forward base in this sector, and humans were supposed to be easy to manage. Her superiors had told her to simply show up, demonstrate their superior technology, and the humans would gladly hand over whatever resources they needed. Simple, quick, efficient, Alex. Watch this silver-skinned woman look around his lab like she was inspecting a particularly disappointing restaurant. She carried herself with the kind of confidence that usually belonged to people who had never been wrong about anything in their lives. Her armor looked more advanced than anything he had ever seen, and the way she had just appeared out of thin air suggested technology far beyond human capabilities. "I am Commander Zara of the Valerian Empire," she announced, her voice carrying the tone of someone making an important proclamation. "You will kneel and acknowledge my authority over this facility." Alex blinked. He set down his coffee cup and looked at her with the same polite confusion he might show to someone who had just asked him to juggle flaming torches. "I'm sorry, but I think there might be some misunderstanding. I'm Dr. Alex Rivera, and this is a scientific research station. Are you here for the cultural exchange program? Because I think you might need to speak with administration first." Zara felt something she had never experienced before: confusion. In her world, when a superior being gave an order, lesser creatures immediately obeyed. It was natural law, as predictable as gravity. Yet this human was looking at her like she had just said something mildly interesting rather than issuing a divine command. "You dare question my authority?" she asked, though her voice carried more bewilderment than anger. "I am Zara of the Valerian Empire. I have conquered 17 star systems. Entire planets bow before my presence." Alex nodded thoughtfully, like she had just shared an interesting fact about her work experience. "That's quite impressive. 17 star systems. The logistics alone must be fascinating. How do you manage supply lines across such distances? The cultural integration challenges must be enormous." This was not going according to plan. Zara had expected fear, submission, maybe some begging. Instead, this human was asking her about supply chain management like she was presenting a business case study. She felt a strange sensation in her chest, something between irritation and curiosity. "I do not discuss military secrets with inferior beings," she said, though her tone was less commanding than before. "Oh, I understand completely," Alex replied. "Operational security is important in any field. I have similar restrictions with my research. Some of our biotechnology studies are classified too." Zara stared at him. He had just compared his small-scale human research to her galactic military campaigns. The sheer audacity should have been insulting, but instead, she found herself oddly intrigued. No one had ever spoken to her like this, as an equal, as if her achievements were interesting but not intimidating. "You show no fear," she observed, studying his calm expression. "Should I be afraid?" Alex asked genuinely. "You haven't threatened me or shown any hostile behavior. You're clearly technologically advanced, which is fascinating from a scientific perspective, but fear seems like an odd response to a first contact situation." First contact. He was treating this like a scientific phenomenon rather than a demonstration of her superior power. Zara felt another unfamiliar sensation. For the first time in her life, someone was looking at her with curiosity rather than terror or worship. "I could destroy this entire station with a thought," she said, though it came out more like a question than a threat. "That would be unfortunate," Alex replied calmly. "We have 3 years of research data here that could help treat several rare diseases. Plus, I imagine destroying research facilities isn't great for diplomatic relations." Diplomatic relations. He was assuming this was some sort of peaceful negotiation between equals. The concept was so foreign to Zara that she found herself temporarily speechless. In her world, interactions between species involved conquerors. In the conquered, there was no middle ground, no diplomacy, no mutual respect. "Your species is strange," she finally said. "I imagine we seem that way," Alex agreed. "Cultural differences can be pretty significant. Your technology is remarkable, by the way. That matter transportation system you used to arrive here, is it quantum-based, or does it manipulate space-time directly?" And there it was again. Instead of asking for mercy or offering tribute, he was asking about her technology, like a curious student. Zara realized she was in completely uncharted territory. All her training, all her experience, had prepared her for conquest and submission. No one had ever prepared her for polite scientific interest. That is classified information," she said, feeling somehow defensive. "Of course," Alex nodded. "Though if you're ever interested in sharing some basic principles, our physics team would love to learn. We might have some interesting research to share in return." Cross-cultural scientific exchange can be really beneficial for both parties. The phrase stuck in Zara's mind like a song she couldn't forget. In her world, interactions were about dominance and submission, victory and defeat. This human was proposing something completely different, something equal. She looked around the lab again, but this time she noticed things she had missed before. The careful organization of equipment, the detailed charts and data on the walls, the obvious dedication to knowledge and discovery. This wasn't the primitive workspace of an inferior being. This was the laboratory of someone who cared deeply about understanding the universe. "I must return to my ship," Zara said suddenly, feeling overwhelmed by sensations she didn't understand. "Will you be back?" Alex asked. "I'd love to continue this conversation. First contact situations don't happen every day." Zara stared at him one more time. He actually wanted her to return. Not because he feared her, not because she had commanded it, but because he found their interaction interesting. It was the most confusing and intriguing thing that had ever happened to her. "Perhaps," she said, and stepped back through her portal, leaving Alex alone with his coffee and a story no one would ever believe. Back on her massive warship floating in the darkness of space, Commander Zara found herself doing something she had never done before in her 300 years of life. She was pacing back and forth across her command chamber, her silver boots clicking against the metal floor while her crew watched in complete confusion. Her second in command, Captain Vex, finally worked up the courage to speak. "Commander, the human facility is still there. Should we begin the standard occupation procedures?" Zara stopped pacing and stared out the massive window at the small space station below. Such a tiny thing compared to her ship, which could house 1,000,000 beings. Yet something about that little research lab kept pulling at her thoughts like a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Not yet," she said, surprising everyone, including herself. "I need to... study their customs first. Know your enemy. And all that." It wasn't entirely a lie, but it wasn't the complete truth either. The truth was that she couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Alex Rivera and his strange way of looking at her. It's like she was interesting instead of terrifying. Like she was worth having a conversation with instead of just someone to obey. That night, while her crew slept, Zara did something that would have shocked the entire Valerian Empire. She accessed the human information networks that they had intercepted over the years. Thousands of hours of something called movies, television shows, and documentaries. She told herself she was researching human weaknesses, but really she was trying to understand why Alex had acted so differently from everyone else she had ever met. After watching 17 romantic comedies in a row, Zara became convinced she had figured out human courtship rituals. According to her research, the proper way to win a human's affection was through grand gestures, expensive gifts, improving your superiority over other potential partners. Simple enough. The next morning, she materialized in Alex's lab again. But this time she brought gifts. In her arms, she carried a chunk of pure trilithium, a metal so rare that it powered entire star systems, and a small device that could translate any language in the galaxy. "Dr. Rivera," she announced, setting the gifts on his desk with obvious pride. "I have brought you offerings to demonstrate my value as a potential mate." Alex, who had been eating a sandwich for lunch, nearly choked. "I'm sorry, what now?" "Mate," Zara repeated, as if the word should be obvious. "According to my research of human customs, when a superior being wishes to court an inferior. I mean, when someone wishes to court another person, they bring valuable gifts to show their worth." Alex looked at the trilithium, which was probably worth more than the entire space station, and then at the translation device, which represented technology beyond human dreams. Then he looked back at Zara, who was standing there with the expectant expression of someone who had just solved a very difficult math problem. "That's very thoughtful," he said carefully. "But I think there might be some misunderstanding about human relationships." Zara's confident expression faltered. "The gifts are insufficient. I also conquered a small moon in your solar system this morning. It's yours now." "You conquered a moon for me?" Alex asked, his voice reaching a higher pitch. "Only a small one," Zara said quickly. "Nothing important, just somewhere you could build a vacation home or store equipment." Alex sat down heavily in his chair. "Zara, I need to explain something about human culture. We don't really conquer things for each other. And relationships aren't about proving who's superior or giving expensive gifts." "They're not?" Zara looked genuinely confused. "But in every human entertainment program I studied, the male brings flowers or jewelry, demonstrates his physical prowess, and defeats other males in combat for the female's attention." "Those are movies," Alex said gently. "They're not real. They're stories people made up for entertainment. Real human relationships are about getting to know each other, sharing interests, and building trust over time." Zara felt that strange sensation in her chest again, the same one she had experienced during their first meeting. Everything she thought she understood about humans was apparently wrong. Again? "So, the gifts are inappropriate?" she asked. "Well, they're incredibly generous, but yes, a bit much for a second meeting," Alex admitted. "Usually humans start with something simple like coffee or conversation." "Coffee," Zara repeated, as if memorizing an important battle strategy. "I can provide coffee, the finest coffee in 17 star systems." "Actually, I already have coffee," Alex said, holding up his mug. "But thank you. Maybe you could just sit and talk. Tell me about your homeworld." This was another completely new concept for Zara. No one had ever asked her about her homeworld out of genuine curiosity. About her planet, it was intelligence gathering for military purposes. But Alex seemed genuinely interested in learning about her as a person. "My world is called Valeria Prime," she began hesitantly. "It's a warrior planet. We have 7 moons and cities that float in the sky." "Floating cities?" Alex's eyes lit up with scientific interest. "How do they maintain altitude? Anti-gravity technology or some kind of magnetic levitation system?" There it was again, that look of curiosity instead of fear. Zara found herself talking about her homeworld in a way she never had before. Not as a military commander describing strategic advantages, but as someone sharing memories of a place they loved. She told him about the crystal forests that sang in the wind, and the great libraries carved into floating mountains, she described. The aurora storms that painted the sky in colors that didn't exist on other worlds. And the way the 7 moons looked like dancing lights during eclipse season. Alex listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed he was really thinking about what she was saying. He wanted to know about the ecosystem of the crystal forests, the technology behind the floating cities, and the cultural significance of the aurora storms. For 2 hours, they talked like this. It's not commander and subject, not conqueror and conquered, but just 2 beings sharing knowledge and perspectives. It was the longest conversation Zara had ever had, where no one had asked her to defeat anyone or destroy anything. When she finally returned to her ship, her crew was waiting with obvious concern. "Commander," Captain Vex said carefully, "you've been gone for several hours. Troops are asking about the invasion timeline." Zara looked at him blankly. "Invasion, right? That's why they were here." Somehow, during her conversation with Alex, she had completely forgotten about her original mission. "The invasion is postponed," she said. "I need to conduct more research." That night, she watched more human movies, but this time she focused on different ones. Stories about friendship and conversation, about people learning to understand each other across cultural differences. She was beginning to realize that her first research might have been a bit off target. But one thing was becoming clear to her. For the first time in her life, she had found someone who saw her as more than just a weapon or a commander. Someone who was interested in who she was rather than what she could do for them. It was the most terrifying and wonderful feeling she had ever experienced. 3 weeks after her first visit to the space station, Commander Zara made a decision that would have shocked every military academy in the galaxy. She was going to get a job.
Say.
How hard could it be? She materialized in the station's administrative office, wearing what she thought was appropriate civilian clothing. Unfortunately, her idea of casual wear was still a form-fitting silver suit that seemed to glow with its own inner light, and boots that made small sparks when she walked. "I wish to apply for employment," she announced to the startled receptionist. A young man named Tyler, who had clearly never expected a 7-foot glowing warrior woman to ask about job openings. Do you have a resume?" Tyler asked, his voice cracking slightly. "A what now?" Zara looked confused. "A resume. Your work experience, education, references." Zara straightened proudly. "I have conquered 17 star systems, commanded fleets of 1,000,000 warriors, and single-handedly defeated the Crimson Nebula pirates. I graduated top of my class from the Imperial War Academy and hold advanced degrees in strategic warfare, quantum physics, and interdimensional combat." Tyler stared at her for a long moment, then slowly typed something into his computer, and ... "You want to work in our research department?" "Specifically, I want to work with Dr. Alex Rivera," Zara said. Trying to sound casual and failing completely, Tyler's expression shifted to one of understanding. Workplace romance. He'd seen it before, though admittedly never involving someone who could probably bench press a shuttlecraft. "Well," he said diplomatically, "we do have an opening for a research assistant in the xenobiology department. It's entry-level, minimum wage, and you'd need to follow all human workplace protocols." "Acceptable," Zara said immediately, not bothering to ask what minimum wage meant or what workplace protocols involved. And that's how Commander Zara, terror of the galaxy, found herself sitting in a mandatory workplace safety seminar the next morning, learning about proper lifting techniques and emergency evacuation procedures. She raised her hand during the presentation. "Yes," asked the instructor, a middle-aged woman named Janet, who ran these seminars 3 times a week. "In the event of hostile boarding action, should we prioritize defending the research data or eliminating the attackers first?" Zara asked seriously. Janet blinked. "Well, we don't really have hostile boarding actions here. This is about fire safety and workplace accidents." But what if the fire is caused by plasma cannon damage during an enemy assault? There are no plasma cannons on a research station. There should be, Zara muttered. Very poor defensive planning. Alex, who had been asked to help integrate their new colleague, watched this exchange with a mixture of amusement and concern. When the seminar ended, he approached Zara with a gentle smile. "How are you adjusting to civilian life?" he asked. "It's very confusing," Zara admitted. "Everyone keeps talking about team meetings and collaborative decision-making. In my experience, one person gives orders and everyone else follows them. This system seems highly inefficient." "It can seem that way," Alex agreed. "But different. Approaches work for different situations. Military operations need clear command structures, but research benefits from multiple perspectives and open discussion." Their first team meeting was scheduled for that afternoon. Alex had tried to prepare Zara by explaining how human meetings worked. People would share ideas, discuss problems, and work together to find solutions. No one would be in absolute command, and everyone's input would be valued. Zara nodded along. But when the actual meeting started, her military training kicked in automatically. "This meeting will come to order," she announced, standing at attention while everyone else was still settling into their chairs with coffee and notebooks. "Dr. Rivera will now brief us on the mission objectives." "Actually," said Dr. Chen, the team leader, "we're just reviewing last week's research progress and planning next steps." "Understood," Zara said. "Who is the enemy in this scenario?" There isn't an enemy," Dr. Chen explained patiently. "We're studying bacterial samples. The bacteria are hostile." Zara's hand moved instinctively toward where her weapon would normally be. "No, they're just ... bacteria. We're trying to understand how they function so we can develop better medicines." This concept seemed to genuinely puzzle Zara. "You're studying something that isn't trying to kill you? For what strategic purpose?" Alice could see that his colleagues were getting increasingly uncomfortable with Zara's militaristic approach to everything. He stepped in gently. "Zara, remember what we talked about? Different approaches for different situations? This is more like ... exploration than warfare." "Ah," Zara said, her face lighting up with understanding. "Reconnaissance mission. Why didn't you say so?" The meeting proceeded with Zara treating every research proposal like a military operation. When Dr. Kim suggested trying a new cultivation method, Zara wanted to know about backup plans if the primary approach failed. When Dr. Lopez mentioned resource allocation, Zara immediately began calculating. It's optimal supply chain logistics for a 6-month siege. Her colleagues found her intensity both exhausting and oddly helpful. She asked questions no one else thought to ask and identified potential problems with a thoroughness that bordered on paranoia. "What if the bacterial cultures become contaminated?" she asked during one discussion. "Well, we'd start over with new samples," Dr. Kim replied. "Duh. But what if all your samples become contaminated simultaneously? What if your backup equipment fails? What if the contamination is sabotage?" Sabotage. Dr. Lopez looked confused. "Who would sabotage bacteria research?" "Corporate espionage is a real concern in competitive research environments," Alex said thoughtfully. "Zara's actually asking some good questions about redundancy and security protocols." Zara beamed at his approval, though she tried to hide it. Making him proud had somehow become more important to her than any military commendation she'd ever received. After the meeting, Alex found her in the break room, staring at a coffee machine like it was an enemy she couldn't figure out how to defeat. "Need help?" he offered. "This device is clearly broken," Zara said. "I've given it several direct commands, but it refuses to respond." Alex smiled and showed her how to use the buttons, add water, and select coffee strength. Zara watched with the same intense focus she probably brought to learning new weapon systems. "Human technology is very interactive," she observed as the machine gurgled to life. "Most things work better when you work with them rather than commanding them," Alex said gently. "Is that advice about the coffee machine or about working with humans?" Zara asked, showing more insight than he'd expected. "Maybe both," Alex admitted, as they stood there waiting for the coffee to brew. Alex realized that Zara was genuinely trying to adapt to human culture. Yes, she approached everything like a military operation, but she was making an effort to understand their ways. It was actually kind of endearing to watch someone so powerful struggle with something as simple as office dynamics. Zara said quietly, "Your species is very strange, but also, it's interesting. I'm beginning to understand why you've survived so long despite being so physically weak." "Thanks," Alex said, not sure if that was a compliment or not. "It was meant as praise," Zara assured him. "Intelligence and cooperation are valuable survival traits. I'm learning to appreciate strategies that don't involve conquest." It was the closest thing to an admission of personal growth that Alex had ever heard from her, and it made him realize that maybe there was more to Commander Zara than just the warrior facade she showed the galaxy. 2 months into her civilian life, Commander Zara had become something of a legend throughout the galaxy, though not in the way she had hoped. News of the mighty Valerian warrior taking a minimum-wage job to pursue a human had spread through every spaceport, trading station, and military outpost from here to the Andromeda sector. The humans on the research station found her dedication sweet. If a bit overwhelming, her fellow researchers had grown used to her treating lunch breaks like tactical planning sessions and responding to peer review comments with detailed battle strategies. But across the galaxy, her own people were watching in horror as their greatest military commander became the subject of jokes and gossip. On her homeworld of Valeria Prime, the Council of War was not amused. "She's making us look weak," General Thane declared, his metallic voice echoing through the Crystal Council chambers. A Valerian commander working for minimum wage? Taking orders from beings who can't even lift their own body weight? It's humiliating. "The other species are laughing at us," Admiral Kess added. "Our trade negotiations have become jokes." "Are you going to send Commander Zara to serve us coffee?" they asked. High Chancellor Vrock, the most powerful being in the Valerian Empire, listened to these complaints with growing irritation. Zara had been their finest warrior, their most successful commander, their greatest symbol of Valerian superiority. She was a cosmic punchline. Meanwhile, on the research station, Zara was completely unaware of the political storm she was causing. She was too busy trying to figure out why Alex seemed distant lately. For weeks, she had been making progress in understanding human customs, learning to work with her colleagues instead of commanding them, and even mastering the coffee machine. But something had changed. Alex had started suggesting that maybe she missed her old life. He asked questions about her military career with what sounded like nostalgia, as if he thought she should return to commanding fleets instead of calibrating laboratory equipment. The more he hinted that she might be happier in her old role, the more confused and hurt she became. What Alex didn't know was that his concern came from overhearing conversations between station personnel. They worried that such a powerful being was wasting her talents on menial research work. They wondered if she was only staying because she felt obligated to prove something. Well-meaning colleagues had suggested to Alex that maybe the kindest thing would be to encourage her to return to her real calling. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning when Dr. Patel from the linguistics department made an innocent comment that shattered Zara's carefully constructed new world. "It's really impressive how you've adapted to our culture," Dr. Patel said during their morning coffee break. "But don't. You miss commanding all those starfleets? This must be so boring compared to conquering planets." "I don't find it boring," Zara replied, but something in her voice had changed. "Still," Dr. Patel continued, not noticing her shift in mood, "Alex mentioned you might be thinking about going back to military life. Probably for the best, right? Someone with your skills shouldn't be stuck doing data entry and sample analysis." Words hit Zara like a physical blow. Alex had been discussing her future with others, behind her back, making decisions about what was best for her without including her in the conversation. It was exactly what she had spent months trying to get away from other people, deciding her fate based on what they thought she should be. That afternoon, when Alex approached her workstation with his usual friendly smile, Zara was ready for a confrontation. "We need to talk," she said, her voice carrying the command tone she hadn't used in weeks. They found a quiet corner of the station's observation deck, where Earth hung in the viewport like a blue and white marble. For a moment, they stood in silence, and Alex could sense the tension radiating from her, like heat from a star. "Did you tell Dr. Patel that I should return to military service?" Zara asked directly. Alex felt his stomach drop. Talking about whether you were happy here. Some people thought maybe you were sacrificing too much by staying. Sacrificing too much? Zara's voice rose, and Alex noticed that her silver skin was beginning to glow with an inner light, never a good sign.
What exactly?
Do you think I'm sacrificing?
Your career.
Your position? Your whole life? Alex said, genuinely confused by her anger. You were one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. You're organizing research files and cleaning lab equipment. Don't you miss that? Miss what? Zara stepped closer, her blue eyes blazing. Miss being feared? Miss having? People obey me because they're terrified of what I might do to them. Miss being treated like a weapon instead of a person? That's not what I meant, Alex said quickly. Yes, it is, Zara said, and for the first time since he'd known her, her voice cracked with emotion. You think the only thing I'm good for is conquest and destruction? You think I should be grateful for the chance to go back to being a tool of war? Zara, that's not true. I just thought you thought wrong. The glow around her was getting brighter. Do you know what I've given up to be here? Not just my military rank or my command. I've given up everything I was taught to believe about. Myself, I've learned to ask instead of demand. I've learned to listen instead of command. I've learned to value cooperation over dominance. Alex stared at her, beginning to understand the depth of his mistake. But the biggest thing I've given up, Zara continued, her voice dropping to almost a whisper, is the certainty that I knew who I was. For 300 years, I knew exactly what I was supposed to be. A warrior, a conqueror, a symbol of Valerian power. And then I met you, and suddenly I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Zara, no, let me finish. She turned to look out at Earth, her reflection ghost-like in the viewport. You made me question everything I thought I knew about strength and power and worth. You showed me that maybe there was another way to exist in the universe, in a way that didn't involve fear and submission and endless conquest. Alex felt a terrible weight settling in his chest as he realized what he had done. And now, Zara said quietly, you're telling me I should go back to being what I was before? That all this growth, all this learning, all this change was just a phase. Something I should get over so I can return to my real purpose. That's not what I meant, Alex said again. But the words sounded hollow even to him. Zara finally turned to look at him. And Alex saw something in her expression that he had never seen before. Not anger, not confusion, but a deep, profound sadness. The worst part, she said, is that I actually thought you saw me differently. I thought you saw me as more than just my military rank or my combat abilities. I thought you understood that. I was trying to become something better than what I was. I do see that, Alex protested. Double quotes, no you don't. Zara's voice was gentle now, but final. If you did, you would never have suggested I go back. You would understand that asking me to return to my old life is like asking me to forget everything I've learned about who I can be. With that, she walked away, leaving Alex alone on the observation deck with the growing realization that he had just destroyed the most meaningful relationship he had ever had. For 3 days after their confrontation, Alex didn't see Zara anywhere on the station. Her workstation sat empty, her coffee mug unwashed in the break room sink. The lab felt strangely quiet, without her asking detailed questions about proper sterilization procedures or suggesting backup plans for routine experiments. On the 4th day, Tyler from administration found Alex in the cafeteria, looking miserable over a sandwich he wasn't eating. Hey, Dr. Rivera, Tyler said, sliding into the seat across from him. Have you heard from Zara lately? Her emergency contact forms are still blank, and HR is getting worried. Emergency contact forms. Alex looked up with concern. Yeah, she never filled them out when she started. Said she didn't have anyone to list. He thought maybe you'd know someone from her family or her old job. The realization hit Alex like a physical blow. Zara had no one. She had left behind her entire civilization, her career, her identity, everything she had ever known, and she had done it alone. No friends to support her, no family to fall back on, no safety net of any kind. Just the hope that maybe in this strange new world of humans, she could find a place where she belonged, and he had suggested she give it all up and go back. That evening, Alex made his way to the station's docking bay, where he had heard Zara's ship was still parked. He found her sitting on the loading ramp, looking out at the stars through the massive bay doors. She was back in her silver armor, and for a moment, Alex thought she might already be preparing to leave. "Zara," he said. Softly, not wanting to startle her, she turned, and Alex could see that she had been crying. He had never seen a Valerian cry before, and he was surprised to discover that their tears were silver, like liquid starlight. "I've been thinking about what you said," Alex began, taking a careful step closer, "and I owe you an apology. A big one." Zara watched him approach, but didn't speak. "I was wrong," Alex continued. "It's not just about suggesting you go back, but about why I suggested it. I thought I was being kind, but really I was being a coward." "A coward?" Zara's voice was quiet, but curious. Alex sat down on the ramp beside her, careful to leave some space between them. "I was scared of how much your life had changed because of me. When people started talking about all the things you had given up, I felt guilty. I thought maybe I had ruined your life by not sending you away that first day. You thought you had ruined my life." Zara looked at him with genuine surprise. "You were this powerful, respected commander, and because of our friendship, you became, well, a research assistant who everyone talks about behind her back. I thought maybe the kind thing would be to encourage you to reclaim your old life." Zara was quiet for a long moment, processing this. "So you were trying to protect me from the consequences of my own choices?" "Yes," Alex admitted, "and that was incredibly arrogant of me. I treated you like you couldn't make your own decisions about your own life." "It was arrogant," Zara agreed, but her tone was gentler now. "But I understand why you did it. In my culture, we're taught that the strong must protect the weak. It took me months to learn that humans don't see relationships that way." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching ships come and go through the docking bay. Finally, Alex worked up the courage to ask the question that had been eating at him. "Are you leaving?" "I don't know," Zara said honestly. "My government has sent me an ultimatum: turn to military service or face formal exile from the Valerian Empire. No halfway measures, no compromise. And if you choose exile, I can never go home again. I'll lose my citizenship, my legal protections, my connection to my people. I'll essentially become a refugee." Alex felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Because of me?" "No," Zara said firmly. "Because of my choices? You didn't force me to stay here, Alex. You didn't trick me or manipulate me. I chose this life because for the first time in 300 years, I felt like I was growing into someone I actually wanted to be. But if you choose exile, what will you do? Where will you go?" Zara smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Alex had seen from her in days. "Well, I hear there's a research station that needs someone with experience in xenobiology and strategic planning. The pay isn't great, but the coffee is decent and the company is ... interesting." "Zara," Alex said carefully, "I need you to understand something. If you stay, it has to be because you want to, not because you think it's what I want, or what anyone else expects." "I know," she said, "and I need you to understand something too. The person I was before we met." She was strong, but she was also lonely and angry and convinced that the only way to matter was through fear. "The person I'm becoming." Oh, she's still figuring things out, but she's learning that there are other kinds of strength. As if summoned by their conversation, the docking bay suddenly filled with light as 3 Valerian warships materialized outside the station. Each ship was massive, dwarfing the human facility, and their arrival sent emergency alarms echoing throughout the station. "The Council of War," Zara said, standing up and straightening her armor. "They've come to collect me personally." Alex stood too, his heart racing. "What do we do?" Zara looked at him with surprise. "I'm not letting you face this alone," Alex said. "If you're willing to risk exile for the chance to build a new life, the least I can do is stand with you when you make that choice." Zara stared at him for a moment, then laughed. It was a sound of pure joy, bright and clear in the artificial air of the docking bay. Dr. Alex Rivera, she said, you continue to surprise me. Together, they walked toward the main conference room, where a delegation of Valerian officials was waiting. As they went, Alex couldn't help but notice that Zara carried herself differently now. Still confident, still strong, but with a new kind of grace that came from choosing her own path rather than following orders. In the conference room, Chancellor Vrock himself was waiting, along with 2 other members of the Council of War. They were impressive figures, tall and imposing in their ceremonial armor, but Alex noticed that none of them had the inner light that seemed to shine from. Zara. Commander Zara, the Chancellor said in a voice like distant thunder. You will return with us immediately to face judgment for your abandonment of duty. Zara said simply. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Alex could feel the tension. In the room, ratchet up several levels. You refuse a direct order from the High Council? Chancellor asked, his voice dangerously quiet. I refuse to pretend that this is still my world, Zara replied. I formally request exile from the Valerian Empire. I renounce my citizenship, my military rank, and my claim to any Valerian protections or privileges. The Chancellor's expression darkened. You would choose these weak humans over your own people? I choose growth over stagnation, Zara said. I choose learning over conquest. I choose becoming who I want to be over remaining what others expect me to be. Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding. And we choose to welcome her as a friend and colleague, not because of what she can do for us, but because of who she is. The Chancellor looked at Alex with the kind of disdain usually reserved for particularly unimpressive insects. You dare speak in our presence, human? Yes, Alex said, surprised by his own courage. Because that's what friends do. They stand up for each other. Zara reached out and took Alex's hand, not as a romantic gesture, but as a symbol of the partnership they had built. 2 beings from different worlds learning to understand each other across the vast differences of culture and biology. The exile is granted, the Chancellor said coldly. You are no longer Valerian. You are nothing. No, Zara said, squeezing Alex's hand. I'm something new. As the Valerian ships departed, leaving Zara officially stateless and alone in the universe. Alex realized that sometimes the most important journeys aren't about going somewhere new, but about discovering who you can become when you're brave enough to leave who you used to be behind. And sometimes, the most powerful thing in the universe isn't the ability to conquer others, but the courage to choose your own path, even when it means walking away from everything you've ever known.